I love that story of you having broken your dad's pole vault record.
Still got another foot or so to go to get past his best. So
I was a coach at the time, so I've been coaching kids to try to break that record for 30 years.
We never cared about the grade, but we cared very much if we saw on the report that they didn't hand in an assignment. So
it was never really like a workout. It was always just another fun activity in my day.
Welcome to Fit Kids Conversation. I'm your host, David Jacobson, and today I'm here with the Manson Track and Field Dynasty out of Colorado, led by Amy Manson, the mom, Pat Manson, the dad, and Max and Mia Manson, who are two collegiate pole vaulters. The group has accomplished a great amount of feats in track and field and is got a great basis in terms of youth health and fitness practices that they bring to their achievements. I would like to ask Mia first, what you feel is the most important lesson that has carried you forward, not just in pole vault, but in school or other aspects of life that you took away from your experience growing up in this family?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like there's definitely been a lot. Yeah, just like growing up and stuff, like being active and staying healthy was just it was just so ingrained in our life, and I never even noticed it until really I left and like was in a world surrounded by like college kids that aren't necessarily living like that, realizing how much that meant to me and how much better it made me feel and like think and other people and stuff. I feel like that's been one of the main lessons, is just like keeping myself active and healthy and enjoying what I'm doing is like so important for me mentally, physically, just in general. Yeah, that's one of the main things I'd say.
So it sounds like athletic activity, physical activity was non-negotiable in the household. And I'm curious if that was really presented as a hard line, or was it more just leading by example and trusting that your kids would want to accompany you in that journey?
yeah, I feel like maybe because in my life that it's when you're presented, hey, you need to do this, you need to get out in physical activity, like to me it's not something you need to tell something to do. And in my personal experience, like, man, I need to do this to feel good, or I want to do this. And so yeah, I feel like Pat and I definitely were living that way and have always, that's what our kids have seen. And my hope is that, yeah, and the way I felt like we never had to say, hey, you need to get out and have physical activity. And again, it was wrapped in, hey, let's go climb a mountain, or what if we were to go, try rock climbing, or whatever the sport was, or volleyball looks fun, that it was just presenting an idea where they could go have some fun and feel good as well because they had physical activity. But hopefully that's how it was presented, that it was just more presenting opportunities to have fun during the day and add something into their day that made them feel good and was fun. But I guess you'd have to ask the kids if it came across that way. So
yeah, I think it definitely did. And kind of growing up, I always thought that like that stuff, going outside, being active, was like genuinely fun and what I wanted to do. I never really got into video games. It just wasn't like that fun. And so like if I was gonna go hang out with my friends and stuff, like it was always like, what are we gonna do outside? Like what kind of activity are we gonna do? Never like, what are we gonna do inside? So that's always fun.
I would like to ask each of you, and anybody can start on this one, to tell a little story that you feel like epitomizes your family's approach to health, fitness, sports, achievement, effort, whatever those terms that we've talked about already kind of resonates with you.
I have one that's like, I don't know, it's pretty related to that, just like about how my parents did such a good job just like keeping stuff fun for us. So like some like of us have mentioned, we used to do a lot of 14ers, like 14,000 foot mountains here in Colorado. It's a big thing. And Max was really motivated to climb all of them. So we spent a lot of summers climbing those. And for a kid, like it's a pretty big hike. Like, it's a tall mountain. Some of them are long days. Like a lot of kids would have trouble getting up those. But my dad would always pack some candy in his bag, and he'd be like, once we get to the summit, or like at this point you can get candy, and like once you get to this point you can get candy, and like it just was never just like a hike. It was always just like, oh, get candy. And then we'd always like spend time like looking at all the animals we saw, and it was just like I never even, it was, of course they were hard still as a kid, but I never even like thought of them about that. They're always just a fun little day trip with the family.
Along with that, we had one of our friends that we climbed 14ers and stuff with. They would always hide these little like gemstones on the summit. And so every time the kids got to the summit, they knew it was always like this scavenger hunt where they'd have to look around and like look under the rocks to find these little gemstones and stuff. And so, and they were always like so excited like to get to the summit and go for this little search treasure hunt up there. And so I think things like that kind of really help to make it more than, make it feel like more than just a hike. You're doing more stuff, and then you kind of learn to love it. And then you learn to kind of love just the hiking part alone.
As a parent growing up, when I look back on it, like what do I think was worked? And I think one of the things was that Amy and I were both still training when the kids were little. So Saturday morning was like a workout day. Like we'd go to the track and do a workout, and the kids would either come along or not. But if they came along, we made it fun. But when I think back on it, I think it's important that when the kids, their first memories of like, what are we doing on Saturday, or what are we doing on Wednesday afternoon? And it was a workout, like we're going to go. And it was just sort of part of what we would do. I've heard it described that the culture is just the way we do it here. And that I think when you start young enough, the kids just understand that that's what we do. We're going to go do things. And then on Saturdays, we'd go hike a mountain, and we'd maybe go camping Friday night. And that was just fun. And we just, all the work to load the car and everything ended up being worthwhile. So I think the culture of starting young enough that the kids sort of just expect that, what are we doing this weekend? And it's probably something physical. So I think that was helpful when I look back.
We're just out in the wilderness. We were, having those conversations while we're walking or hiking, and then, different challenges come on. It starts hailing on us as we're going out to like Capitol Peak in the middle of the wilderness. Or we did one particular trip where it's one of the most remote places in North America. It's where there's 4 14ers, but you have to take a train that goes from Durango to Silverton, and halfway along that route, the train just stops in the middle of the wilderness. And it's pretty exciting because then the backpackers just get off with their packs, and all the people on the train, all the tourists, like, wait, what are they doing? There's nothing here in the middle of the wilderness. And so it was such a fun, exciting, adventure for our family to like take on this challenge together. Like, this train is dropping us off. The train doesn't come back until tomorrow. Like, packs were really heavy because we had tents and we had sleeping bags. We were going to stay there a few days to climb the 14ers up there, and had to pass it off. Some people during the trip just got really tired and had to pass the heavy backpack to someone else. Mia had to take it for her big brother because his shoulders were hurting that day. And then anyway, then we get up there and get to see all the great animals. And then Max had one of his most amazing 14er climbing days and got like 4 in a day that day. And, he ended up finishing them all by the time he was 12, but all 58 of them. But so it's just like this. But then the nights just sitting under the stars. We had a funny story there where by accident we brought the 2-man tent instead of the 4-man tent, and here we are in the most remote wilderness. So poor Pat, because he was in charge of packing, decided he was the man that was outside the tent with just his head in when it started raining, and Max and me and I used each other's butts for pillows. And so it's just, there was so much physical exertion and work on that trip, but it was combined with just family time and nature and quality time and just, all the, stuff going on these days where people just aren't present in the moment with real, experiences. And that was everything. So that's like something that really sticks out, that solidifies how important that is.
That's great. And so now that Max, you've been outed because Mia had to carry the heavy pack that you couldn't or wouldn't. And Pat, now that you've been outed as having failed to pack the correct tent, I'm going to give the guys a chance to fire back. And let's see where that takes us in terms of anybody getting one over on each other.
Well, he could say on the same trip how I was the wimp on one big part of that trip. Wyndham Peak, you can talk about that, Max.
Yeah, she kind of refused to go past this one spot. So we waited for a while and then left her behind and went to the top.
Pat, you got anything, any bullets left?
Oh, no bullets on that. That was an amazing trip. I deserve to sleep outside. I forgot the tent.
Okay, hey, you know, the thing you touched on in terms of really capitalizing on nature and the opportunities it affords, I think is kind of overlooked. And with Fit Kids, again, often we're working in underserved communities and people who don't have, you know, relatively easy access to the outdoors. So is there anything, I mean, you guys are close enough to Boulder, close enough to Denver, where maybe some urban adventures would have meaning to you? Is there things that you could recommend?
Honestly, I think the difference between inside air and outside air is just huge. And sunshine, if there's some sunshine, you know, or just experiencing weather conditions, being out, you know, getting the big coat on and going out in a snowstorm and throwing snowballs or making a fort. I mean, just being outside, I know for me, just feels so different and so good. And so much more healthy, you know.
When I remember like growing up too, whenever we weren't in the mountains or like off doing some adventure, Max and I were just in our cul-de-sac in our street just playing with our neighbors. We just make up all sorts of games like on our bikes with sidewalk chalk, making up like hopscotch games, like anything. We never really went inside each other's houses. Like I don't even know what some of the inside of their houses ever looked like, but we spent like hours just in our front yards making up games with them, and that was always super fun for me too.
Max, can you talk a bit about how your rock climbing translates to pole vault, and if anybody else wants to chime in on how any of their non-vaulting or track activities you know, were supported by other sports and fitness regimens, I would love to hear about that. But let's start with you, Max. How does climbing translate to pole vault?
One of the biggest things is kind of the balance aspect. It kind of lets me kind of going between both, keeps me from getting so focused on one that I burn out or anything. And so that's one great part, is it kind of allows me these two things I'm passionate about to do, but they also have really nice benefits as just cross training for each other. Of course, climbing is a lot of kind of upper body and core strength, which transfers really well to pole vault. And I noticed like coming back to pole vault at the end of summer, after like a season of hard climbing and stuff, just like the invert and a lot of like aspects of the pole vault come much easier than they do during season because of all that climbing training. And then of course pole vault brings kind of the speed and power and lower body strength to climbing, which can help with things like speed climbing or dynos where you're like jumping between holds and stuff. So they really kind of help each other. And the other thing I've noticed is that like a hard climbing day doesn't really make me that tired for a hard pole vault day, and a hard pole vault day doesn't really make me that tired for a hard climbing day. So it works well kind of like alternating the two to get those benefits from all day.
I also grew up rock climbing, but I did like pretty, almost like gymnastics, like pretty intense team meets, traveling. Like it was pretty serious for like at a young age. And I think it just really taught me like the aspects of being an athlete, just like the hard work, showing up to practices every day, working hard, like even if you didn't want to. And I think experiencing that at a young age, that really like set me up for any sport I've done after that.
Great. Okay, let's do a little bit of a lightning round. Who wants to go first as far as one solid piece of advice for either parents or kids to make sure that they stay happy, healthy, fit.
So I think one of the cool things, my wife runs this summer track program where she measures all the kids' stuff. So we talked a lot about fun, but I didn't want it to be that that's all it is. Fun was mixed in with your personal best, and it wasn't beating other people, it was beating what you did last week. And I think that was one of the things that was really valuable, is that Amy would, her summer track program, they write down their 100-meter dash time, their long jump best. And when you're a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, that gets better each week. And they get enjoyment out of that. And I think that's important too. So that'd be my quick hit.
I very much so agree with that. Not only just like physical literacy, trying all these things, but like I think switching it up is so important for kids, especially just keep it fun and exciting. Like from my own experience and then like coaching kids and seeing how they respond to stuff, I think just switching it up and keeping it fun is so important.
I would say, find something you love, try a bunch of things. And then even for things that you don't really enjoy, try and like find little ways to enjoy it. Whether that's just setting a small goal or a challenge or something like that, or relating it to something else.
I heard this term for like, get a physical literacy, like try different things, use your body, have your different sports and different types of games and activities will challenge your brain and your body to work together in a different way to solve the problems of how to do that physical activity. And the more you can get, it's sort of like reading a lot of books. You're going to have a lot of wisdom to apply to whatever you're going to do in life. And I feel the same about the physical part, is gain this great physical literacy where your brain and body can work together to accept all these physical challenges. And then whatever you decide to do, all of that will feed into that and help.
I just really want to thank all of you for your time today, your great advice. I look forward to getting this out